The James Show Podcast.
Do we need a National Guard troop deployment down here in Dallas? And that would be sad because we don't need it anywhere else around here but Dallas. We don't need the National Guard to go to downtown Fort Worth. We don't need them to go to Frisco or Prosper or Denton. We might need them in downtown Dallas here. The ICE raids, we've had a few of those. That seems to be going pretty well. At least we don't have crazy protesters that are boxing in cars like they were doing in Chicago. But we have just a string of crime here that if you put it all together into one big foil ball, you know how Pee Wee Herman had that big foil ball that he would always add to? If you keep adding to that, you might come to the conclusion that we could use it. There was another shooting on a DART train. Someone was murdered yesterday. We had that's the second one in 2 weeks. But we had 3 people who were found dead after a shooting in West Dallas. We had someone that is actually, I think, murdered across the street. There was a shooting that happened at a restaurant across the street. We're at the American Airlines Center. If you leave an event there, Mavs game, Stars game, concert, whatever, and you go down the plaza, like where the entrance is, that first restaurant across the street on the right, there was a shooting there yesterday, and it didn't happen at like 2 a.m. because, a drug deal went wrong or something. It was like around brunch time. And this was supposed to be like the nice cleaned up part of town. So when you put all this together, we may need a little help here. So let's cover some of this. First, let's start with the DART train murder that happened yesterday. This is WFAA.
We begin with breaking news in Dallas tonight. Someone was shot and killed on a DART train in the last few hours. It is the second shooting on a DART train in a week, and we just got word that rail service has now resumed. That happened within the last few minutes. This is only the latest violent incident during a deadly weekend across DFW. Since Friday, at least 9 people were killed, 10 more injured in multiple shootings and stabbings across Dallas and Fort Worth. Let's get right to WFAA's Luke Clary. He is live at the Pearl Arts District DART station in downtown Dallas. What is the latest there, Luke?
Authorities here say that the deadly shooting happened at around 7. They say officers responded here very quickly. 1 person was killed. Authorities are not sharing any information about the victim. 1 suspect was arrested. They're not sharing any more information about that person either. And they said that DART remains safe to ride, but this all comes about a week after another deadly shooting happened on a DART train as well. A 53-year-old restaurant manager was shot and killed while he was out celebrating his birthday and so some riders here are worried about the safety when it comes to riding on DART trains. Teresa.
And the other one that I mentioned here, 3 dead in West Dallas. And they talk about 2 of the guys dying, but the headline said 3. So, that's a triple murder is what we have here. Doesn't this count as a mass shooting? Shouldn't we have like wall-to-wall coverage? I know if this happened at like a school or church or something, this would be wall-to-wall coverage, but I don't know. I again, for the 1,000th time on this show, I say it's strange, the stories that get picked up and amplified in the media. And then the mass shooting, 3 people dead, whatever. This isn't going to make the national news, but this happened in my backyard and yours too.
A heart-pounding moment in West Dallas that began with a crash.
The family here says there have been many crashes on this busy section of road, but the damage from this one goes far beyond this broken section of fence.
Josue Lara asked that we not show his face. He said the crash didn't wake him, not even the gunshots. It was the police knocking on his door just before 6 a.m.
So we go outside, and then I start talking to the police. He says there's been a shooting.
He didn't recognize the dead man in the van, but there were 2 others nearby.
Just glanced at them, and I said, I don't know them, but I take a deeper look, a better look, and I realized it was my younger brother. And then on the right of him, it was my dad.
Father, 47-year-old Pedro Lara Aroa.
Loved to use his hands, loved his music.
And son, 21-year-old Pedro Lara.
He was Army Reserve, but he was trying to go active.
Dallas police say they found 3 people dead and that the investigation is ongoing. No suspect information. Josue believes his father and brother were shot while trying to help.
They went to go check, trying to help out, lend a hand, because they crashed bad.
And now, as his family tries to pick up the pieces, they're left waiting for answers. In Dallas, I'm Luke Clary.
Now, you may think, well, James, that's just a couple of incidences. I don't know if that warrants a National Guard intervention or, we need to do anything different. Well, the National Guard intervention that's happening in Chicago right now, there was only 4 murders over the weekend, so we're kind of on par with Chicago now. Do we need some help in Dallas? 800-288-9227. This is Robert in Southlake. You're on WBAP.
Good afternoon, sir. I was just calling to add a comment about the commentary that was from Mr. Fanone. Not sure if everyone remembers. He was one of the D.C. Metro Capitol police officers back on January 6th that when everything was said and done, he had to retire because of the mental stress that it had caused him. And he is a anti-Trumper. He said he voted for Trump in the first election and was his supporter. But when Trump fired Comey, he had to stop being a Trump supporter. So I think it just goes to show, as you say, the one-sidedness of the media. So that's all.
Yeah, good catch. That is the same guy, Michael Fanone. That's the first time I was made aware of him. I probably should have added that into my analysis. So I'm glad you called, Robert. Do you think we need help?
Absolutely.
Do you think we need help in Dallas here? Do we need National Guard intervention, or do we need more ICE attention? What do you think?
I think ICE attention is adequate at this point, but I will tell you personally, I am not from here originally. I'm from the Midwest, but I would say I avoid Dallas unless I absolutely have to go.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that. I mean, I'm not scared of being in downtown Dallas, but I work here every day. If I am going somewhere I'm scared, I may or may not have a gun with me. But we are tied with Chicago for weekend murders. That's not a good look, Dallas. We should do a little bit better than that. But let's open that up. Do we need help here? Do we need a National Guard intervention? I feel like maybe I am taking this really heavy because I ignored the news from when I left the state fair on Friday until last night when I started preparing for the show. But there was a lot of crime going on. And I go to the headlines. It's like, hey, man, shot on the dart train. I was like, yeah, I already saw that one. And no, Parker. Another dude was shot on and killed on the... Oh, my goodness, this happened twice? Yeah. Twice in the last 2 weeks, someone's been killed on a dart train. You know what we don't have of in the story? No mention of race. So weird. Why is that? I don't know. Could be anything. But we also had a couple of other weird things in the news. There was a triple murder. Well, let's not say murder. How about 3 people found dead? I don't know if they're all murdered. Reportedly, allegedly, all the other disclaimers in there. But yeah, 4. If it is 4 murders, just in those 2 stories, that's how many Chicago had this weekend. Now, granted, Chicago's getting a little bit of help lately, but we should be doing better than that. But I would really like to add to the coverage of these stories. Number 1, you know how many people were murdered in their own private vehicle last night? I don't know. Maybe that one guy that got shot in West Dallas. You know, this is weird because I know I was trying to make you think that I was going to say nobody. But let me put it in a way that is not hyperbole. You are far less likely to be murdered by a stranger driving in your own car than on the dart train. What we heard about last night and the guy that probably got killed in his car and then wrecked it, and then a couple guys went to help him out and they got killed along with him. That's the exception there. But that's kind of a lot of crime that happened. There was another, I think it was a murder that was across the street. They said it was a shooting. One person may be deceased. Again, I don't know if it's a murder or, we still have to say allegedly, reportedly, so I don't get sued like by Dominion or whomever. But if that adds up, you realize that we beat Chicago as far as murders this weekend. And so at some point, do we get a National Guard visit? They act like it's a big infiltration, like, oh, they're turning the military on its own citizens. Dude, 400 National Guard troops are being smattered across Portland and Chicago and some of these other metropolitan areas. And you can go find whatever you want in the Rorschach test on this. Rorschach, the ink blot test. Different people can look at the same ink blot and see different things. I have seen interviews on X/Twitter where someone goes into Chicago. They're like, we don't deserve this. We're under siege. The military's being turned on us. And then they'll go talk to someone else, and someone else will say, this is great. I can finally walk to the corner store without having to fear for my life. I hope they do this forever. So I'm kind of asking you, do we need help? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Clay in Oklahoma. You're on WBAP.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to say that I spent 30 years in law enforcement, retired. Had I been a patrol cop in Chicago last week when the ICE agents were asking for help and the section chief was demanding that the officers did not respond, that would have been my last day at work. I would like to see that, I hope to see that there was at least a handful of Chicago cops that defied that order and went and helped those ICE agents.
Well, hang on. We got to catch everyone up, Clay, because I know you know about this, but I've purposefully not reported this because I'm not 100% sure on it. I saw some, or actually I heard the audio from the police scanner where they were telling them to stand down. I don't know if they were telling them to stand down so they wouldn't interfere with ICE or so they wouldn't defend ICE. And until I do a little more digging, I don't want to go out there and make one of my bold statements because I've done that before and ended up looking like an idiot. So I was tapping the brakes on that. But for everyone that doesn't know, yeah, there's evidence that may suggest that the Chicago police were told to stand down and not help out the ICE agents after they were getting blocked, after they were getting interfered with and mobbed by not just protesters, but now we have criminals who are interfering with the law enforcement, people just doing their duty and deporting people, or at least detaining people. So, you know what? I'm kind of glad you brought that up because it takes the heat off of me, Clay. But you say those cops should be resigning in droves?
Well, they if they had responded, they would probably be fired, which is what would most likely happen to me. But yes, I say they should be resigning and looking for a job in Texas or Oklahoma.
Well, I don't know, Clay. What if they agree with the mayor and the governor? Because right now, you know, that there's usually some level of distance between the political machine and the actual law enforcement officers on the ground. But you got to think at least some of them agree with what's going on.
I can understand that. I've gone to training and I've known law enforcement officers from all over the United States, and I can't fathom a police officer that would stand down voluntarily in an order like that.
Yeah, that's quite troublesome here. But I also love to point out the blatant hypocrisy of them whining. They're like, well, they're not sharing information with us. Bro, y'all are intentionally not sharing information with ICE this entire time you've been a sanctuary city. So good. I hope they don't share information with you. I hope they don't cooperate with you. That's what you deserve, sanctuary city police departments in general. So, no, great call, Clay in Oklahoma. I'm glad you brought that up, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Stick with the phones. Go to Eric. Eric in Dallas. You're on WBAP. Go.
Yes, thank you, sir. Love you, brother. The answer is yes. We should deploy the National Guard to every single place we can to stop crime from being normalized. I mean, you were just talking about it, right? We cannot allow all the things that we've known to have happened that are wrong to not go unpunished. And that includes every single nook and cranny of every single city and town. If there's somebody that's breaking the law, they need to be arrested. And that's not what's happening right now.
All right, let me push back. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I have a different preference. Because what you're saying would work. Here's what I don't like about it. Why are all the other people who live in decent neighborhoods and decent jurisdictions that actually follow the law, why are we on the hook for the safety concerns of people who, think we're a bunch of idiot mouth-breathing flyovers? If they want to vote in these terrible politicians with their terrible policies and their terrible judges and their terrible prosecutors, let them dodge bullets. Because out in Buck Tussle, we don't have this problem at all. We don't have anything locked up at the CVS. We don't have homeless people bothering you. We don't have shootings on the DART train. We don't even have passenger trains. So why do we have to foot the bill for the idiots that don't take our very good advice? So that's part of it. The other part of it is instead of sitting in the National Guard for people who aren't following the letter of the law, can't they get charged with a crime? Shouldn't you be able to charge a judge with a crime or a prosecutor with a crime if they're not following the letter of the law? Just like if a cop, didn't follow the letter of the law and he just started running around bopping people on the head, these judges, there has to be some sort of criminal penalty if you don't follow the law. If you and I don't follow the law on jaywalking or speeding, or for God's sakes, if you park 1.5 feet off the curb on Crowdis on a Wednesday, you can get a $45 ticket. That's not hypothetical. They'll enforce those laws, but why don't the judges have to follow the laws? Why don't the prosecutors have to follow the laws? Those people need to start going to jail. Those people need to have handcuffs put on them, because we're supposed to have the rule of law. And if you can just say, nah, I don't think we're going to follow immigration policy, or nah, I think we're going to let this guy out that's been arrested 22 times, or nah, I don't care. Let's let this guy on the Charlotte train so he can get all stabby. If you just crack down on the people who aren't following the law, like you would be cracked down on, Eric, that would turn it around in a second.
So 100%. There should not be a single politician, judge, public official that has exercised any sort of, unlawful behavior that should still be employed. That should be done. And why they're still employed and we're tolerating that is probably the answer to your first question. We pay for it because if we don't, then nobody else will. And the way of life that I'm trying to preserve and protect, unfortunately, has this tax associated with it that has to cover paying for stupid neighbors with their "in this house" signs in front of their yard who are oblivious to the reality of the situation. But that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's just tough because as someone that lives in Bug Tussle, and commutes in, there's a lot of us who have intentionally decided that these major metropolitan areas aren't worth our efforts. They're not worth our tax dollars, our property tax dollars, our sales tax dollars, and we choose to go to neighborhoods and jurisdictions that are worthy of our residents and presence and tax dollars. And now we can't even escape it if we move away. We still have to pay for the bad decisions that are happening by the people in hyper blue cities. That just doesn't seem fair, even though it would work, Eric. That bothers me because I feel like we're losing a sense of fairness. You and I have just marveled on this show, the ability for people to turn their phone on themselves and put on social media things that you and I think are just insane. Now, most of this is people having some sort of mental breakdown, like, I have to go to work, the world's falling apart. But in some of these, I think people are expecting sympathy, and I'm just out. I mean, I'm way out of sympathy when it comes to deporting illegal immigrants. Check this one out. This is a lady, and I assume this is true. This could be a hoax, could be an actress or whatever, but this got passed around a whole bunch. And millions of views later, you're going to hear it on the James Show. It's just some cute little lady telling you her sad, sad story about her husband deported.
Sorry, my eyes are puffy and red and swollen.
By the way, I didn't put the music on this. She put the music on this.
Sorry, my eyes are puffy and red and swollen. I've been crying a lot today. My husband and I had an appointment at USCIS this morning, and he was detained by ICE. We have 5 children. The youngest is going to be a month old at the end of this week. He had no criminal record here or in Mexico, besides a re-entry that he had against him from 13 years ago. He worked 6 days a week to provide for us and paid taxes. I had to break the news to my kids this afternoon when they got home from baseball practice. My 9-year-old son took it the hardest. He cried for over an hour and started throwing up, and his stomach started hurting really bad, which is why we're here in the ED at 1 a.m. with a newborn baby. I plan to reunite my family at the end of this year after they finish this semester of school down in Mexico. I'm going to have to sell our house, but I would really like to keep my car because it's big enough to fit all 5 of my kids in there. But it needs to be paid off first before we're allowed to take it to Mexico. So TikTok, do your thing and try to help me pay off my car. I'm going to leave my Venmo and Cash App name in my bio. And please keep my babies in your thoughts and prayers and share this video to help us out. Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry for her terrible mixing skills. For anyone who didn't get that, she has a husband who, they have 5 kids together. He's being deported. She's an American citizen and all their kids, American citizens. And he has no other criminal record other than coming here illegally and a failure to report or something 13 years ago. And sorry. I really do feel bad for your kids who, came home crying from baseball practice or whatever story you were telling. But that's your fault, lady. You did that to your kids. I didn't do that to your kids. We didn't do that. Garrett didn't do that to your kids. ICE didn't even do that to your kids. Your husband broke the law, has been in a continual state of breaking the law for at least 13 years. And if you guys really are married, it might be pretty easy for him to go down and get a green card at any time. But you didn't do that, did you? You know, once you're married to an American citizen, you had the chance to just go walk into the immigration, especially under more friendly administrations, and get that taken care of. But you didn't, did you? Now, whose fault is that? Whose fault is it that your husband came here illegally? Whose fault is it that you married an illegal alien? Whose fault is it that after y'all got married, you didn't go follow the proper legal channels or fill out some paperwork or do anything to rectify the situation and become right with the law? You get no sympathy from me. Was there any of this concern? What happens to the children of January Sixers who, after lording through Statuary Hall, they got ripped away from their children? I bet you some of their children came home from baseball practice crying, and they're American citizens, damn it. No, your husband doesn't deserve to be here. He doesn't have the right to be here. It's not ethical to keep him here. And you don't get to claim Ollie oxen free because you had some kids. Sorry. Not sorry, actually. Not sorry. Yes, this is what enforcing the law looks like. This is what happens to anybody who breaks the law. If your husband was a legal citizen, but he went out and robbed the bank, you know what happened? He would be separated from his kids. He would deserve it, too. He broke the law. And it's a sad situation that you have put yourself in. This is your fault, Mom. Yours. Football fans know the name Mark Sanchez. He was on a couple of great USC teams. Did some amazing things with the Jets, and pretty much the last time they were relevant. And then he did 1 year with the Cowboys as a backup, and then went on to broadcasting, basically. And so he's on, I think it's Fox Sports 1. I don't remember which network it's on. I think it's Fox Sports 1. Doesn't matter here. But we have a weird story where when I saw the headline, Mark Sanchez got stabbed, there was an incident in an alley in Indianapolis. I'm like, oh my God. Someone mugged Mark Sanchez, or Mark Sanchez tried to break up a fight, or Mark Sanchez was somehow the victim in all this. Turns out, I don't think he was the victim. This is WTHR in Indianapolis.
Breaking now at noon in just the last hour. Those men right there, Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears and Metro Police Chief Chris Bailey, addressed a downtown stabbing over the weekend, leaving a 69-year-old seriously hurt in the hospital. The suspect, former NFL quarterback Mark Sanchez, now faces an upgraded felony charge for battery. All of it seemingly stemming from a fight over where the victim parked a truck downtown. Ella, some strong words from the chief and the prosecutor moments ago.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Dustin. So we did just find out moments ago that they upgraded those charges on Sanchez. He now has level 5 felony charges for serious bodily injury. Investigators say they were able to up those charges based on the victim's injury. Now, that 69-year-old victim had severe lacerations on his face, according to that police report that they updated to up those charges on Sanchez. Like you said, Sanchez is a 38-year-old former NFL player. He was actually here to commentate on the game that was happening on Sunday. But this all happened around Saturday at 12:30, this physical altercation when Sanchez allegedly approached the 69-year-old victim. Now, this was just off of Washington Street in between the Marriott and Weston in an alley. Sanchez told the 69-year-old man he could not park there, despite the victim removing cooking oil from the hotel kitchens and putting it in his truck, which was his job. Now, if convicted, Sanchez could spend 1 to 6 years in prison. Now, also, a judge did just grant Sanchez's request to waive his initial hearing. So he will now be in court on November 4th.
Oh, man, I've got so many questions after that. Number one, Mark Sanchez is in an alley next to his hotel, somehow thinking he's the arbiter of the parking rules. That makes no sense. What is this guy? I feel like we're missing something. I don't feel like this is the whole story. This can't really be about where some dude parked in an alley and Mark Sanchez got upset. Mark Sanchez doesn't live there. Mark Sanchez is there to cover a game. So he's just going to, I guess is this the hotel he's staying at? And then the dude was working. He was taking cooking oil out and putting it in his car. And you want to interrupt the guy there? And now he's being charged with felonies. Now, Mark Sanchez in the hospital. He's still in the hospital, by the way, like right now to this second. The last update I heard right before the James show was he was still in the hospital today with some pretty serious wounds. But what do you get in a pick sticking match? That's when you get in a knife fight for non-country people. Because he was injured enough to go to the hospital. The guy that he is being charged felonies for attacking has lacerations on his face. They didn't exactly say Mark Sanchez did the lacerations. But lacerations is when you get like slashed with a knife, not punctured with a knife. Like it didn't stab and go in him. He was swinging his arm and just kind of cut him open. So that's not as serious as a puncture wound, less likely to be deadly unless you hit a jugular or some main vein or artery, femoral artery, something to that effect. But who would have even guessed Mark Sanchez had it in him? Who would have guessed Mark Sanchez walks around with a knife? Because he's from Orange County, California. He didn't grow up on the farm. He's not running around trying to open feed sacks and cut the strings off of hay bales or anything like that. What is he doing with a knife? He just runs around with a switchblade? Was he in the Jets or the Sharks? Or I don't know. He'd probably be in the Sharks because he's Hispanic, right? But they were Puerto Rican, so my Andrew Lloyd Webber metaphor is incomplete. But I am so curious to hear the rest of this story. You know, I felt like he was older. He's only 38 years old. He played in the NFL for a good 10, 11 years and has been a broadcast guy ever since. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen much of his work. I guess he's pretty good at it if he's been able to hold down this job for a while. But I really feel like we're missing something. Why would you get all stabby with the guy? And the guy stabbed you back. Y'all both had knives? What, did y'all run into the kitchen real quick? Start chucking knives at each other? I just don't understand. Like Mark Sanchez, if you're not happy with the guy and how he parked, can't you just walk around the corner to the front of the building and get a security guard or the doorman at the hotel or the concierge at the hotel desk or the cop standing by? Dude, you're Mark Sanchez. You're an NFL quarterback, a retired NFL quarterback. What are you doing getting in a knife fight with some poor bastard who's just trying to take the oil out from the fry machines at the hotel restaurant? Mind is blown. See, this I got a sound effect. This was my mind being blown when I read it. I recorded that for you yesterday. Thank you. 800-288-9227. If anybody has the inside info on what the heck is happening with Mark Sanchez, I would love to know about it. Coming up next, unless we get swamped with calls here on the Mark Sanchez situation, the reaction to the Brett Kavanaugh assassination attempt. The person who did it just got sentenced, and it is a joke. Wait till you hear the audio next. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.